July, 1660. July 1st. This morning came home my fine camlet cloak with gold buttons and a silk suit, which cost me much money, and I pray God to make me able to pay for it. I went to the cook's and got a good joint of meat, and my wife and I dined at home alone. In the afternoon to the Abbey, where a good sermon by a stranger, but no common prayer yet. After sermon called in at Mrs. Crisp's, where I saw Mynheer Rhoda, that is to marry Sam Hartlib's sister, a great fortune for her to light on, she being worth nothing in the world. Here I also saw Mrs. Greenlife, who is come again to live in Axe Yard with her new husband Mr. Adams. Then to my Lord's, where I stayed a while. So to see for Mr. Creed to speak about getting a copy of Barlow's patent. To my Lord's, where late at night comes Mr. Morland, whom I left prating with my Lord, and so home. 2nd. Infinite of business that my heart and head and all were full. Met with Purser Washington, with whom, and a lady, a friend of his, I dined at the Bell Tavern, in King Street. But the rogue had no more manners than to invite me, and to let me pay my club. All the afternoon with my Lord, going up and down the town. At 7 at night he went home, and there the principal officers of the navy, among the rest myself was reckoned one. We had order to meet tomorrow, to draw up such an order of the council as would put us into action before our patents were passed, at which my heart was glad. At night supped with my Lord, he and I together, in the great dining room alone by ourselves, the first time I ever did it in London. Home to bed, my maid pretty well again. 3rd. All the morning the officers and commissioners of the navy we met at Sir G. Carteret's chamber, and agreed upon orders for the council to supersede the old ones, and empower us to act. Dined with Mr. Stevens, the treasurer's man of the navy, and Mr. Turner, to whom I offered £50 out of my own purse for 1 year, and the benefit of a clerk's allowance beside, which he thanked me for. But I find he hath some design yet in his head, which I could not think of. In the afternoon my heart was quite pulled down, by being told that Mr. Barlow was to inquire to-day for Mr. Coventry. But at night I met with my Lord, who told me that I need not fear, for he would get me the place against the world. And when I came to W. Howe, he told me that Dr. Petty had been with my Lord, and did tell him that Barlow was a sickly man, and did not intend to execute the place himself, which put me in great comfort again. Till 2 in the morning writing letters, and things for my Lord to send to sea. So home to my wife to bed. 4th. Up very early in the morning, and landing my wife at Whitefriars Stairs, I went to the bridge, and so to the treasurers of the navy, with whom I spake about the business of my office, who put me into very good hopes of my business. At his house comes Commissioner Pett, and he and I went to view the houses in Seething Lane belonging to the navy, where I find the worst very good, and had great fears in my mind that they will shuffle me out of them, which troubles me. From thence to the Excise Office in Broad Street, where I received £500 for my Lord by appointment of the Treasurer, and went afterwards down with Mr. Ludyard, and drank my morning draught with him and other officers. Thence to Mr. Bakewell's, the goldsmith, where I took my Lord's £100 in plate for Mr. Secretary Nicholas, and my own piece of plate, being a state dish and cup in chased work, for Mr. Coventry, cost me above £19. Carried these and the money by coach to my Lord's at Whitehall, and from thence carried Nicholas's plate to his house and left it there, intending to speak with him anon. So to Westminster Hall, where meeting with Monsieur l'Impertinent and W. Bowyer, I took them to the Sun Tavern, and gave them a lobster and some wine, and sat talking like a fool till 4 o'clock. So to my Lord's, and walking all the afternoon in Whitehall Court, in expectation of what shall be done in the council as to our business. It was strange to see how all the people flocked together there, to see the king looking out of the council window. At night my Lord told me how my orders that I drew last night, about giving us power to act, are granted by the council, at which he and I were very glad. Home and to bed, my boy lying in my house this night the first time. 5th. This morning my brother Tom brought me my jackanapes coat with silver buttons. It rained this morning, which makes us fear that the glory of this great day will be lost, the King and Parliament being to be entertained by the City to-day with great pomp. Mr. Hayter was with me to-day, and I agreed with him to be my clerk. Being at Whitehall, I saw the King, the Dukes, and all the attendants go forth in the rain to the City, and it bedraggled many a fine suit of clothes. I was forced to walk all the morning in Whitehall, not knowing how to get out because of the rain. Met with Mr. Cooling, my Lord Chamberlain's secretary, who took me to dinner among the gentlemen waiters, and after dinner into the wine cellar. He told me how he had a project for all us secretaries to join together, and get money by bringing all business into our hands. Thence to the Admiralty, where Mr. Blackburn and I, it beginning to hold up, went and walked an hour or two in the park, he giving of me light in many things in my way in this office that I go about. And in the evening I got my present of plate carried to Mr. Coventry's. At my Lord's at night comes Dr. Petty to me, to tell me that Barlow had come to town, and other things, which put me into a despair, and I went to bed very sad. 6th. In the morning with my Lord at Whitehall, got the order of the Council for us to act. From thence to Westminster Hall, and there met with the doctor that showed us so much kindness at the Hague, and took him to the Sun Tavern and drank with him. So to my Lord's, and dined with W. Howe and Sarah, thinking it might be the last time that I might dine with them together. In the afternoon my Lord and I, and Mr. Coventry, and Sir G. Carteret, went and took possession of the Navy Office, whereby my mind was a little cheered, but my hopes not great. From thence Sir G. Carteret and I to the Treasurer's office, where he set some things in order, and so home, calling upon Sir Geoffrey Palmer, who did give me advice about my patent, which put me to some doubt to know what to do, Barlow being alive. Afterwards called at Mr. Pym's about getting me a coat of velvet, and he took me to the Half Moon, and the house so full that we stayed above half an hour before we could get anything. So to my Lord's, where in the dark W. Howe and I did sing extemporaries, and I found by use that we are able to sing a bass and a treble pretty well. So home and to bed. 7th. To my Lord, one with me to buy a clerk's place, and I did demand £100. To the Council Chamber, where I took an order for the advance of the salaries of the officers of the Navy, and I find mine to be raised to £350 per annum. Thence to the Change, where I bought 2 fine prints of Regotti from Rubens, and afterwards dined with my uncle and Aunt White, where her sister Cox and her husband were. After that to Mr. Rawlinson's with my uncle, and thence to the Navy Office, where I began to take an inventory of the papers and goods and books of the office. To my Lord's, late writing letters, so home to bed. 8th. Lord's Day. To Whitehall Chapel, where I got in with ease by going before the Lord Chancellor with Mr. Kipps. Here I heard very good music, the first time that ever I remember to have heard the organs and singing men in surplices in my life. The Bishop of Chichester preached before the King, and made a great flattering sermon, which I did not like, that clergy should meddle with matters of state. Dined with Mr. Llewellyn and Salisbury at a cook shop. Home, and stayed all the afternoon with my wife till after sermon. There till Mr. Fairbrother came to call us out to my father's to supper. He told me how he had perfectly procured me to be made master in arts by proxy, which did somewhat please me, though I remember my cousin Roger Pepys was the other day persuading me from it. While we were at supper came Win Howe to supper to us, and after supper went home to bed. 9th. All the morning at Sir G. Palmer's, advising about getting my bill drawn. From thence to the Navy Office, where in the afternoon we met and sat, and there I began to sign bills in the office the first time. From thence Captain Holland and Mr. Brown of Harwich took me to a tavern, and did give me a collation. From thence to the Temple, to further my bills being done, and so home to my Lord, and thence to bed. 10th. This day I put on first my new silk suit, the first that ever I wore in my life. This morning came Nan Pepys's husband, Mr. Hall, to see me, being lately come to town. I had never seen him before. I took him to the Swan Tavern with Mr. Eglin, and there drank our morning draught. Home, and called my wife, and took her to Dr. Clodius's to a great wedding of Nan Hartley, to Mynheer Roder, which was kept at Goring House with very great state, cost, and noble company. But among all the beauties there, my wife was thought the greatest. After dinner I left the company, and carried my wife to Mrs. Turner's. I went to the Attorney General's, and had my bill, which cost me 7 pieces. I called my wife, and set her home. And finding my Lord in Whitehall Garden, I got him to go to the Secretary's, which he did, and desired the dispatch of his and my bills to be signed by the King. His bill is to be Earl of Sandwich, Viscount Hinchingbroke, and Baron of St. Neots. Home, with my mind pretty quiet, not returning, as I said I would, to see the bride put to bed. 11th. With Sir W. Pen by water to the Navy Office, where we met and dispatched business. And that being done, we went all to dinner to the Dolphin, upon Major Brown's invitation. After that to the office again, where I was vexed, and so was Commissioner Pett, to see a busy fellow come to look out the best lodgings for my Lord Berkeley, and the combining between him and Sir W. Pen, and indeed was troubled much at it. Home to Whitehall, and took up my bill signed by the King, and carried it to Mr. Watkins of the Privy Seal, to be dispatched there, and going home to take a cap, I borrowed a pair of sheets of Mr. Howe, and by coach went to the Navy Office, and lay, Mr. Hayter my clerk with me, at Commissioner Willoughby's house, where I was received by him very civilly, and slept well. 12th. Up early and by coach to Whitehall with Commissioner Pett, where, after we had talked with my Lord, I went to the Privy Seal and got my bill perfected there, and at the Signet, and then to the House of Lords, and met with Mr. Kipps, who directed me to Mr. Beale to get my patent engrossed, but he not having time to get it done in Chancery hand, I was forced to run all up and down Chancery Lane and the 6 Clerk's office, but could find none that could write the hand that were at leisure. And so in a despair went to the Admiralty, where we met the first time there, my Lord Montague, my Lord Berkeley, Mr. Coventry, and all the rest of the principal officers and commissioners, except only the Controller, who is not yet chosen. At night to Mr. Kipps's lodgings, but not finding him, I went to Mr. Spong's, and there I found him, and got him to come to me to my Lord's lodgings at 11 o'clock of night, when I got him to take my bill to write it himself, which was a great providence that he could do it, against to-morrow morning. I late, writing letters to sea by the post, and so home to bed, in great trouble, because I heard at Mr. Beale's to-day that Barlow had been there, and said that he would make a stop in the business. 13th. Up early, the first day that I put on my black camlet coat with silver buttons. To Mr. Spong, whom I found in his nightgown, writing of my patent, and he had done as far as he could for that, etc., by 8 o'clock. It being done, we carried it to Worcester House to the Chancellor, where Mr. Kipps, a strange providence that he should now be in a condition to do me a kindness, which I never thought him capable of doing for me, got me the Chancellor's receipt to my bill, and so carried it to Mr. Beale for a docket. But he was very angry, and unwilling to do it, because he said it was ill writ, because I had got it writ by another hand, and not by him. But by much importunity I got Mr. Spong to go to his office, and make an end of my patent, and in the meantime Mr. Beale to be preparing my docket, which being done, I did give him 2 pieces, after which it was strange how civil and tractable he was to me. From thence I went to the Navy Office, where we dispatched much business, and resolved of the houses for the officers and commissioners, which I was glad of, and I got leave to have a door made me into the leads. From thence, much troubled in mind about my patent, I went to Mr. Beale again, who had now finished my patent, and made it ready for the seal, about an hour after I went to meet him at the Chancellor's. So I went away towards Westminster, and in my way met with Mr. Spong, and went with him to Mr. Lilly, and ate some bread and cheese, and drank with him, who still would be giving me counsel of getting my patent out, for fear of another change, and my Lord Montague's fall. After that to Worcester House, where by Mr. Kipps's means, and my pressing in General Montague's name to the Chancellor, I did, beyond all expectation, get my seal passed, and while it was doing in one room, I was forced to keep Sir G. Carteret, who by chance met me there, ignorant of my business, in talk, while it was a-doing. Went home, and brought my wife with me into London, and some money, with which I paid Mr. Beale £9 in all, and took my patent of him, and went to my wife again, whom I had left in a coach at the door of Hind Court, and presented her with my patent, at which she was overjoyed. So to the Navy Office, and showed her my house, and were both mightily pleased at all things there, and so to my business. So home with her, leaving her at her mother's door. I to my Lord's, where I dispatched an order for a ship to fetch Sir R. Honeywood home, and were both mightily pleased at all things there, and so to my business, for which I got 2 pieces of my Lady Honeywood by young Mr. Pole. Late writing letters, and great doings of music at the next house, which was Wally's, the King and Duke's there with Madam Palmer, a pretty woman that they have a fancy to make her husband a cuckold. Here at the old door that did go into his lodgings, my Lord, I, and W. Howe, did stand listening a great while to the music. After that, home to bed. This day I should have been at Guildhall to have borne witness for my brother Hawley against Black Collar, but I could not, at which I was troubled. To bed with the greatest quiet of mind that I have had a great while, having ate nothing but a bit of bread and cheese at Lilly's to-day, and a bit of bread and butter after I was a-bed. 14th. Up early, and advised with my wife for the putting of all our things in a readiness to be sent to our new house. To my Lord's, where he was in bed very late. So with Major Tolhurst and others to Harper's, and I sent for my barrel of pickled oysters, and there ate them. While we were doing so, comes in Mr. Pagan Fisher, the poet, and promises me, what he had long ago done, a book in praise of the King of France, with my arms, and a dedication to me very handsome. After him comes Mr. Shepley, come from sea yesterday, whom I was glad to see, that he may ease me of the trouble of my Lord's business. So to my Lord's, where I stayed doing his business, and taking his commands. After that to Westminster Hall, where I paid all my debts in order to my going away from hence. Here I met with Mr. Eglin, who would needs take me to the Leg in King Street, and gave me a dish of meat to dinner. And so I sent for Monsieur l'Impertinent, where we sat long and were merry. After that parted, and I took Mr. Butler with me into London by coach, and shewed him my house at the Navy Office, and did give order for the laying in coals. So into Fenchurch Street, and did give him a glass of wine at Rawlinson's, and was trimmed in the street. So to my Lord's late writing letters, and so home, where I found my wife had packed up all her goods in the house fit for a removal. So to bed. 15th. Lay long in bed to recover my rest. Going forth, met with Mr. Shepley, and went and drank my morning draught with him at Wilkinson's, and my brother Spicer. After that to Westminster Abbey, and in Henry the Seventh's chapel heard part of a sermon, the first that ever I heard there. To my Lord's, and dined all alone at the table with him. After dinner, he and I alone fell to discourse, and I find him plainly to be a sceptic in all things of religion, and to make no great matter of anything therein, but to be a perfect stoic. In the afternoon to Henry the Seventh's chapel, where I heard service and a sermon there, and after that meeting W. Bowyer there, he and I to the park, and walked a good while till night. So to Harper's and drank together, and Captain Stoke came to us, and so I fell into discourse of buying paper at the first hand in my office, and the Captain promised me to buy it for me in France. After that to my Lord's lodgings, where I wrote some business, and so home. My wife at home all the day, she having no clothes out, all being packed up yesterday. For this month I have wholly neglected anything of news, and so have beyond belief been ignorant how things go. But now, by my patent, my mind is in some quiet, which God keep. I was not at my father's to-day, I being afraid to go for fear he should still solicit me to speak to my Lord for a place in the wardrobe, which I dare not do, because of my own business yet. My wife and I mightily pleased with our new house that we hope to have. My patent has cost me a great deal of money, about £40, which is the only thing at present which do trouble me much. In the afternoon to Henry the Seventh's chapel, where I heard a sermon, and spent, God forgive me, most of my time in looking upon Mrs. Butler. After that with W. Bowyer to walk in the park. Afterwards to my Lord's lodgings, and so home to bed, having not been at my father's to-day. 16th. This morning it proved very rainy weather, so that I could not remove my goods to my house. I to my office, and did business there, and so home, it being then sunrise. But by the time that I got to my house, it began to rain again, so that I could not carry my goods by cart as I would have done. After that to my Lord's, and so home and to bed. 17th. This morning, as indeed all the mornings nowadays, much business at my Lord's. There came to my house before I went out Mr. Barlow, an old consumptive man, and fair conditioned, with whom I did discourse a great while. And after much talk I did grant him what he asked, viz. £50 per annum, if my salary be not increased, and £100 per annum, in case it be to £350, at which he was very well pleased to be paid, as I received my money, and not otherwise. Going to my Lord's, I found my Lord had got a great cold and kept his bed, and so I brought him to my Lord's bedside, and he and I did agree together to this purpose what I should allow him. That done, and the day proving fair, I went home and got all my goods packed up and sent away, and my wife and I and Mrs. Hunt went by coach, overtaking the carts a-drinking in the Strand. Being come to my house and set in the goods, and at night sent my wife and Mrs. Hunt to buy something for supper. They bought a quarter of lamb, and so we ate it, but it was not half roasted. Will, Mr. Blackburn's nephew, is so obedient that I am greatly glad of him. At night he and I and Mrs. Hunt home by water to Westminster, I to my Lord, and after having done some business with him in his chamber in the nursery, which has been now his chamber since he came from sea, I went on foot with a link boy to my home, where I found my wife in bed, and Jane washing the house, and Will the boy sleeping, and a great deal of sport I had before I could wake him. I to bed the first night that I ever lay here with my wife. 18th. This morning the carpenter made an end of my door out of my chamber upon the leads. This morning we met at the office. I dined at my house in Seething Lane, and after that, going about 4 o'clock to Westminster, I met with Mr. Carter and Mr. Cook coming to see me in a coach, and so I returned home. I did also meet with Mr. Pierce, the surgeon, with a porter with him, with a barrel of lemons, which my man Burr sends me from sea. I took all these people home to my house, and did give them some drink, and after them comes Mr. Shepley, and after a little stay we all went by water to Westminster, as far as the New Exchange. Thence to my Lord about business, and being in talk, in comes one with half a buck from Hinchinbroke, and it smelling a little strong, my lord did give it me, though it was good as any could be. I did carry it to my mother, where I had not been a great while, and indeed had no great mind to go, because my father did lay upon me continually to do him a kindness at the wardrobe, which I could not do because of my own business being so fresh with my lord. But my father was not at home, and so I did leave the venison with her to dispose of as she pleased. After that home, where W. Hewer now was, and did lie this night with us, the first night. My mind very quiet, only a little trouble I have for the great debts, which I have still upon me to the Secretary Mr. Kipps, and Mr. Spong for my patent. 19th. I did lie late abed. I and my wife by water landed her at Whitefriars with her boy, with an iron of our new range, which is already broke, and my wife will have changed, and many other things she has to buy with the help of my father to-day. I to my lord, and found him in bed. This day I received my commission to swear people the oath of allegiance and supremacy delivered me by my lord. After talk with my lord I went to Westminster Hall, where I took Mr. Mitchell and his wife, and Mrs. Murford we sent for afterwards to the Dog Tavern, where I did give them a dish of anchovies and olives, and paid for all, and did talk of our old discourse, when we did use to talk of the King, in the time of the Rump, privately. After that to the Admiralty Office in Whitehall, where I stayed and writ my last observations for these 4 days last past. Great talk of the difference between the Episcopal and Presbyterian clergy, but I believe it will come to nothing. So home and to bed. 20th. We sat at the office this morning, Sir W. Batten and Mr. Pett being upon a survey to Chatham. This morning I sent my wife to my father's, and he is to give me £5 worth of pewter. After we rose at the office, I went to my father's, where my uncle Fenner and all his crew and Captain Holland and his wife and my wife were at dinner, at a venison pasty of the venison that I did give my mother the other day. I did this time show so much coldness to W. Joyce that I believe all the table took notice of it. After that to Westminster about my lord's business, and so home. My lord having not been well these 2 or 3 days, and I hear that Mr. Barnwell at Hinchinbroke is fallen sick again. Home and to bed. 21st. This morning Mr. Barlow had appointed for me to bring him what form I would have the agreement between him and me to pass, which I did to his lodgings at the Golden Eagle in the New Street, between Fetter Lane and Shoe Lane, where he liked it very well, and I from him went to get Mr. Spong to engross it in duplicates. To my lord, and spoke to him about the business of the Privy Seal for me to be sworn, though I got nothing by it, but to do Mr. Moore a kindness, which he did give me a good answer to. Went to the 6th Clerk's office to Mr. Spong for the writings, and dined with him at a club at the next door, where we had 3 voices to sing catches. So to my house to write letters, and so to Whitehall about business of my lord's concerning his creation, and so home and to bed. 22nd. Lord's Day. All this last night it had rained hard. My brother Tom came this morning the first time to see me, and I paid him all that I owe my father to this day. Afterwards I went out and looked into several churches, and so to my uncle Fenner's, whither my wife was got before me, and we, my father and mother, and all the Joyces, and my Aunt Bell, whom I had not seen many a year before. After dinner to Whitehall, my wife to church with K. Joyce, where I find my lord at home, and walked in the garden with him, he showing me all the respect that can be. I left him and went to walk in the park, where great endeavouring to get into the inward park, but could not get in. One man was basted by the keeper, for carrying some people over on his back through the water. Afterwards to my lord's, where I stayed and drank with Mr. Shepley, having first sent to get a pair of oars. It was the first time that ever I went by water on the Lord's Day. Home, and at night had a chapter read, and I read prayers out of the Common Prayer Book, the first time that ever I read prayers in this house. So to bed. 23rd. This morning Mr. Barlow comes to me, and he and I went forth to a scrivener in Fenchurch Street, whom we found sick of the gout in bed, and signed and sealed our agreement before him. He urged to have these words, in consideration whereof, to be interlined, which I granted, though against my will. Met this morning at the office, and afterwards Mr. Barlow by appointment came and dined with me, and both of us very pleasant and pleased. After dinner to my lord, who took me to Secretary Nicholas, and there before him and Secretary Morris, my lord and I upon our knees together took our oaths of allegiance and supremacy, and the oath of the Privy Seal, of which I was much glad, though I am not likely to get anything by it at present, but I do desire it, for fear of a turn out of our office. That done, and my Lord gone from me, I went with Mr. Cooling and his brother, and Sam Hartlib, little Jennings, and some others, to the King's Head Tavern at Charing Cross, where after dinner I took boat, and so home, where we supped merrily among ourselves, our little boy proving a droll, and so after prayers to bed. This day my Lord had heard that Mr. Barnwell was dead, but it is not so yet, though he be very ill. I was troubled all this day with Mr. Cooke, being willing to do him good, but my mind is so taken up with my own business that I cannot. 24th. To Whitehall, where I did acquaint Mr. Watkins with my being sworn into the Privy Seal, at which he was much troubled, but put it up, and did offer me a kinsman of his to be my clerk, which I did give him some hope of, though I never intended. In the afternoon I spent much time in walking in Whitehall Court with Mr. Bickerstaffe, who was very glad of my Lord's being sworn, because of his business with his brother Baron, which is referred to my Lord Chancellor, and to be ended to-morrow. Baron had got a grant beyond sea, to come in before the reversionary of the Privy Seal. This afternoon Mr. Matthews came to me to get a certificate of my Lord's and my being sworn, which I put in some forwardness, and so home and to bed. 25th. In the morning at the office, and after that down to Whitehall, where I met with Mr. Creed, and with him and a Welsh schoolmaster, a good scholar but a very pedagogue, to the ordinary at the Leg in King Street. I got my certificate of my Lord's and my being sworn. This morning my Lord took leave of the House of Commons, and had the thanks of the House for his great services to his country. In the afternoon, but this is a mistake, for it was yesterday in the afternoon, Monsieur L'Impertinent and I met, and I took him to the Sun and drank with him, and in the evening going away we met his mother and sisters and father coming from the Gatehouse, where they lodge, where I did the first time salute them all, and very pretty Madam Frances is indeed. After that very late home and called in Tower Street, and there at a barber's was trimmed the first time. Home and to bed. 26th. Early to Whitehall, thinking to have a meeting of my Lord and the principal officers, but my Lord could not, it being the day that he was to go and be admitted in the House of Lords, his patent being done, which he presented upon his knees to the Speaker. And so it was read in the House, and he took his place. I at the Privy Seal office with Mr. Hooker, who brought me acquainted with Mr. Crofts of the Signet, and I invited them to a dish of meat at the Leg in King Street, and so we dined there, and I paid for all, and had very good light given me as to my employment there. Afterwards to Mr. Pierce's, where I should have dined, but I could not, but found Mr. Shepley and W. Howe there. After we had drunk hard, we parted, and I went away and met Dr. Castle, who is one of the clerks of the Privy Seal, and told him how things were with my Lord and me, which he received very gladly. I was this day told how Baron, against all expectation and law, has got the place of Bickerstaffe, and so I question whether he will not lay claim to wait the next month, but my Lord tells me that he will stand for it. In the evening I met with T. Dowling, who carried me to St. James's Fair, and there meeting with W. Simons and his wife, and Llewellyn, and D. Scoble's wife and cousin, we went to Wood's at the Pall Mall, our old house for clubbing, and there we spent till 10 at night, at which time I sent to my Lord's for my clerk Will to come to me, and so by link home to bed, where I found Commissioner Willoughby had sent for all his things away out of my bedchamber, which is a little disappointment, but it is better than pay too dear for them. 27th. The last night Sir W. Batten and Sir W. Penn came to their houses at the office. Met this morning and did business till noon. Dined at home, and from thence to my Lord's, where Will, my clerk, and I were all the afternoon making up my accounts, which we had done by night, and I find myself worth about £100 after all my expenses. At night I sent to W. Bowyer to bring me £100, being that he had in his hands of my Lord's, in keeping, out of which I paid Mr. Shepley all that remained due to my Lord upon my balance, and took the rest home with me late at night. We got a coach, but the horses were tired, and could not carry us further than St. Dunstan's. So we light, and took a link, and so home weary to bed. 28th. Early in the morning rose, and a boy brought me a letter from Poet Fisher, who tells me that he is upon a panegyric of the King, and desired to borrow a piece of me, and I sent him half a piece. To Westminster, and there dined with Mr. Shepley and W. Howe, afterwards meeting with Mr. Henson, who had formerly had the brave clock that went with bullets, which is now taken away from him by the King, it being his goods. I went with him to the Swan Tavern, and sent for Mr. Butler, who was now all full of his high discourse in praise of Ireland, whither he and his whole family are going by Colonel Dillon's persuasion. But so many lies I never heard in praise of anything as he told of Ireland. So home late at night, and to bed. 29th, Lord's Day. I and my boy Will to Whitehall, and I with my Lord to Whitehall Chapel, where I heard a cold sermon of the Bishop of Salisbury's, and the ceremonies did not please me, they do so overdo them. My Lord went to dinner at Kensington with my Lord Camden. So I dined, and took Mr. Burford, my Lord's chaplain, and his friend along with me, with Mr. Shepley at my Lord's. In the afternoon, with Dick Vines and his brother Peyton, we walked to Lisson Green and Marybone, and back again, and finding my Lord at home, I got him to look over my accounts, which he did approve of, and sign them, and so we are even to this day. Of this I was glad, and do think myself worth clear money, about £120. Home late, calling in at my father's without stay. To bed. 30th. Sat at our office to-day, and my father came this day the first time to see us at my new office, and Mrs. Crisp by chance came in and sat with us, looked over our house, and advised about the furnishing of it. This afternoon I got my £50, due to me for my first quarter's salary as secretary to my Lord, paid to Tom Hayter for me, which he received and brought home to me, of which I am full glad. To Westminster, and among other things met with Mr. Moore, and took him and his friend, a bookseller of Paul's Churchyard, to the Rhenish wine house, and drinking there, the sword-bearer of London, Mr. Mann, came to ask for us, with whom we sat late, discoursing about the worth of my office of Clerk of the Acts, which he hath a mind to buy, and I asked 4 years' purchase. We are to speak more of it to-morrow. Home on foot, and seeing him at home at Butler's Merry, he lent me a torch, which Will carried, and so home. 31st, to Whitehall, where my Lord and the principal officers met, and had a great discourse about raising of money for the Navy, which is in very sad condition, and money must be raised for it. Mr. Blackburn, Dr. Clarke, and I to the Quaker's, and dined there. I back to the Admiralty, and there was doing things in order to the calculating of the debts of the Navy and other business all the afternoon. At night I went to the Privy Seal, where I found Mr. Crofts and Matthews making up all their things to leave the office to-morrow to those that come to wait the next month. I took them to the Sun Tavern, and there made them drink, and discourse concerning the office, and what I was to expect to-morrow about Baron, who pretends to the next month. Late home by coach so far as Ludgate, with Mr. Matthews, and thence home on foot with W. Hewer with me, and so to bed. End of July. August, 1660. August 1st. Up very early, and by water to Whitehall to my Lord's, and there up to my Lord's lodging, Win Howe being now ill of the gout at Mr. Pierce's, and there talked with him about the affairs of the Navy, and how I was now to wait to-day at the Privy Seal. Commissioner Pett went with me, whom I desired to make my excuse at the office for my absence this day. Hence to the Privy Seal office, where I got, by Mr. Matthews' means, possession of the books and table, but with some expectation of Baron's bringing of a warrant from the King to have this month. Nothing done this morning, Baron having spoke to Mr. Woodson and Groom, clerks to Mr. Trumbull of the Signet, to keep all work in their hands till the afternoon, at which time he expected to have his warrant from the King for this month. I took at noon Mr. Harper to the Leg in King Street, and did give him his dinner, who did still advise me much to act wholly myself at the Privy Seal, but I told him that I could not, because I had other business to take up my time. In the afternoon at the office again, where we had many things to sign, and I went to the Council Chamber, and there got my Lord to sign the first bill, and the rest all myself, but received no money to-day. After I had signed all, I went with Dick Scobell and Llewellyn to drink at a bottled beer-house in the Strand, and after staying there a while, had sent W. Hewer home before, I took boat and homewards went, and in Fish Street bought a lobster, and as I had bought it I met with Winter and Mr. de la Barre, and there with a piece of sturgeon of theirs we went to the Sun Tavern in the street and ate them. Late home and to bed. 2nd. To Westminster by water with Sir W. Batten and Sir W. Pen, our servants in another boat, to the Admiralty, and from thence I went to my Lord's to fetch him thither, where we stayed in the morning about ordering of money for the victuallers, and advising how to get a sum of money to carry on the business of the Navy. From thence dined with Mr. Blackburn at his house with his friends, his wife being in the country, and just upon her return to London, where we were very well treated and merry. From thence W. Hewer and I to the office of Privy Seal, where I stayed all the afternoon, and received about £40 for yesterday and to-day, at which my heart rejoiced for God's blessing to me, to give me this advantage by chance, there being of this £40 about £10 due to me for this day's work. So great is the present profit of this office, above what it was in the King's time. there being the last month about 300 bills, whereas in the late King's time it was much to have 40. With my money home by coach, it being the first time that I could get home before our gates were shut, since I came to the Navy Office. When I came home, I found my wife not very well of her old pain, which she had when we were married first. I went and cast up the expense that I laid out upon my former house, because there are so many that are desirous of it, and I am in my mind loath to let it go out of my hands for fear of a turn. I find my layings out to come to about £20, which, with my fine, will come to about £22 to him that shall hire my house of me. To bed. 3rd. Up betimes this morning, and after the barber had done with me, then to the office, where I and Sir William Pen only did meet and dispatch business. At noon my wife and I by coach to Dr. Clerk's to dinner. I was very much taken with his lady, a comely proper woman, though not handsome, but a woman of the best language I ever heard. Here dined Mrs. Pierce and her husband. After dinner I took leave to go to Westminster, where I was at the Privy Seal office all day, signing things and taking money, so that I could not do as I had intended, that is, to return to them and go to the Red Bull playhouse. But I took coach and went to see whether it was done so or no, and I found it done. So I returned to Dr. Clerk's, where I found them and my wife, and by and by took leave and went away home. 4th. To Whitehall, where I found my Lord gone with the King by water to dine at the Tower with Sir J. Robinson, Lieutenant. I found my Lady Jemima at my Lord's, with whom I stayed and dined, all alone. After dinner to the Privy Seal office, where I did business. So to a Committee of Parliament, Sir Heneage Finch chairman, to give them an answer to an order of theirs, that we could not give them any account of the accounts of the Navy in the years 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, as they desire. After that I went and bespoke some linen of Betty Lane in the hall, and after that to the Trumpet, where I sat and talked with her, etc. At night, it being very rainy, and it thundering and lightning exceedingly, I took coach at the Trumpet door, taking Monsieur l'Impertinent along with me as far as the Savoy, where he said he went to lie with Carry Dillon, and is still upon the mind of going, he and his whole family, to Ireland. Having set him down, I made haste home, and in the court-yard, it being very dark, I heard a man inquire for my house, and having asked his business, he told me that my man William, who went this morning out of town to meet his aunt Blackburn, was come home not very well to his mother, and so could not come home to-night, at which I was very sorry. I found my wife still in pain. To bed, having not time to write letters, and indeed having so many to write to all places, that I have no heart to go about them. Mrs. Shaw did die yesterday, and her husband so sick that he is not like to live. 5th, Lord's day. My wife being much in pain, I went this morning to Dr. Williams, who had cured her once before of this business, in Holborn, and he did give me an ointment which I sent home by my boy, and a plaster which I took with me to Westminster, having called and seen my mother in the morning as I went to the doctor, where I dined with Mr. Shepley, my Lord dining at Kensington. After dinner to St. Margaret's, where the first time I ever heard common prayer in that church. I sat with Mr. Hill in his pew, Mr. Hill that married in Axe Yard and that was aboard us in the Hope. Church done, I went and Mr. Shepley to see W. Howe at Mr. Pierce's, where I stayed singing of songs and psalms an hour or two, and were very pleasant with Mrs. Pierce and him. Thence to my Lord's, where I stayed and talked and drank with Mr. Shepley. After that to Westminster Stairs, where I saw a fray between Mynheer Clink, a Dutchman, that was at Hartlib's wedding, and a waterman, which made good sport. After that I got a Gravesend boat, that was come up to fetch some bread on this side the bridge, and got them to carry me to the bridge, and so home, where I found my wife. After prayers I to bed to her, she having had a very bad night of it. This morning, before I was up, Will came home pretty well again, he having been only weary with riding, which he is not used to. 6th. This morning at the office, and that being done, home to dinner all alone, my wife being ill in pain abed, which I was troubled at, and not a little impatient. After dinner to Whitehall, at the Privy Seal all the afternoon, and at night with Mr. Man to Mr. Rawlinson's in Fenchurch Street, where we stayed till 11 o'clock at night. So home and to bed, my wife being all this day in great pain. This night Mr. Man offered me £1,000 for my office of Clerk of the Acts, which made my mouth water, but yet I dare not take it till I speak with my Lord to have his consent. 7th. This morning to Whitehall to the Privy Seal, and took Mr. Moore and myself, and dined at my Lord's with Mr. Shepley. While I was at dinner, in come Sam Hartlib and his brother-in-law, now knighted by the King, to request my promise of a ship for them to Holland, which I had promised to get for them. After dinner to the Privy Seal all the afternoon. At night, meeting Sam Hartlib, he took me by coach to Kensington, to my Lord of Holland's. I stayed in the coach while he went in about his business. He staying long, I left the coach, and walked back again before on foot, a very pleasant walk, to Kensington, where I drank and stayed very long waiting for him. At last he came, and after drinking at the inn we went towards Westminster. Here I endeavoured to have looked out Jane that formerly lived at Dr. Williams's at Cambridge, whom I had long thought to live at present here, but I found myself in an error, meeting one in the place where I expected to have found her, but she proved not she, though very like her. We went to the Bullhead, where he and I sat and drank till 11 at night, and so home on foot. Found my wife pretty well again, and so to bed. 8th. We met at the office, and after that to dinner at home, and from thence with my wife by water to Kate and Sturpin, with whom and her mistress Pye we sat discoursing of Kate's marriage to Monsieur Petit, her mistress and I giving the best advice we could for her to suspend her marriage till Monsieur Petit had got some place that may be able to maintain her, and not for him to live upon the portion that she shall bring him. From thence to Mr. Butler's to see his daughters, the first time that ever we made a visit to them. We found them very pretty, and Colonel Dillon there, a very merry and witty companion, but methinks they live in a gaudy but very poor condition. From thence my wife and I intending to see Mrs. Blackburn, who had been a day or two again to see my wife, but my wife was not in condition to be seen. But she not being at home, my wife went to her mother's, and I to the Privy Seal. At night, from the Privy Seal, Mr. Woodson and Mr. Jennings and I to the Sun Tavern till it was late, and from thence to my Lord's, where my wife was come from Mrs. Blackburn's to me. And after I had done some business with my Lord, she and I went to Mrs. Hunt's, who would needs have us to lie at her house to night, she being with my wife so late at my Lord's with us, and would not let us go home to night. We lay there all night, very pleasantly and at ease. 9th. Left my wife at Mrs. Hunt's, and I to my Lord's, and from thence with Judge Advocate Fowler, Mr. Creed, and Mr. Shepley, to the Rhenish wine house, and Captain Hayward of the Plymouth, who is now ordered to carry my Lord Winchelsea, ambassador to Constantinople. We were very merry, and Judge Advocate did give Captain Hayward his oath of allegiance and supremacy. Thence to my office of Privy Seal, and having signed some things there, with Mr. Moore and Dean Fuller to the Leg in King Street, and sending for my wife we dined there very merry, and after dinner parted. After dinner with my wife to Mrs. Blackburn to visit her. She being within, I left my wife there, and I to the Privy Seal, where I dispatched some business, and from thence to Mrs. Blackburn again, who did treat my wife and me with a great deal of civility, and did give us a fine collation of collar of beef, etc. Thence I, having my head full of drink, from having drunk so much Rhenish wine in the morning, and more in the afternoon at Mrs. Blackburn's, came home, and so to bed, not well, and very ill all night. 10th. I had a great deal of pain all night, and a great loosing upon me, so that I could not sleep. In the morning I rose with much pain, and to the office. I went and dined at home, and after dinner, with great pain in my back, I went by water to Whitehall to the Privy Seal, and that done with Mr. Moore and Creed to Hyde Park by coach, and saw a fine foot race 3 times round the park, between an Irishman and Crow, that was once my Lord Claypool's footman. By the way, I cannot forget that my Lord Claypool did the other day make inquiry of Mrs. Hunt concerning my house in Axe Yard, and did set her on word to get it of me for him, which methinks is a very great change. Crow beat the other by above 2 miles. Returned from Hyde Park, I went to my Lord's, and took Will, who waited for me there, by coach, and went home, taking my lute home with me. It had been all this while since I came from sea at my Lord's for him to play on. To bed in some pain still. For this month or 2 it is not imaginable how busy my head has been, so that I have neglected to write letters to my uncle Robert in answer to many of his, and to other friends, nor indeed have I done anything as to my own family, and especially this month my waiting at the Privy Seal makes me much more unable to think of anything, because of my constant attendance there, after I have done at the Navy Office. But blessed be God for my good chance of the Privy Seal, where I get every day, I believe, about £3. This place I got by chance, and my Lord did give it me by chance, neither he nor I thinking it to be of the worth that he and I find it to be. Never since I was a man in the world was I ever so great a stranger to public affairs as now I am, having not read a new book or anything like it, or inquiring after any news, or what the Parliament do, or in any wise how things go. Many people look after my house in Axe Yard to hire it, so that I am troubled with them, and I have a mind to get the money to buy goods for my house at the Navy Office, and yet I am loath to put it off, because that Mr. Man bids me £1,000 for my office, which is so great a sum that I am loath to settle myself at my new house, lest I should take Mr. Man's offer, in case I found my Lord willing to it. 11th. I rose to-day without any pain, which makes me think that my pain yesterday was nothing but from my drinking too much the day before. To my Lord this morning, who did give me order to get some things ready against the afternoon for the Admiralty, where he would meet. To the Privy Seal, and from thence, going to my own house in Axe Yard, I went in to Mrs. Crisp's, where I met with Mr. Hartlib, for whom I wrote a letter for my Lord to sign for a ship for his brother and sister, who went away hence this day to Gravesend, and from thence to Holland. I found by discourse with Mrs. Crisp that he is very jealous of her, for that she is yet very kind to her old servant Mead. Hence to my Lord's to dinner with Mr. Shepley, so to the Privy Seal, and at night home, and then sent for the barber, and was trimmed in the kitchen, the first time that ever I was so. I was vexed this night that W. Hewer was out of doors till 10 at night, but was pretty well satisfied again when my wife told me that he wept because I was angry, though indeed he did give me a good reason for his being out. But I thought it a good occasion to let him know that I do expect his being at home. So to bed. 12th, Lord's day. To my Lord, and with him to Whitehall Chapel, where Mr. Calamy preached, and made a good sermon upon these words, To whom much is given, of him much is required. He was very officious with his 3 reverences to the King, as others do. After sermon, a brave anthem of Captain Cook's, which he himself sung, and the King was well pleased with it. My Lord dined at my Lord Chamberlain's, and I at his house with Mr. Shepley. After dinner I did give Mr. Dunn, who is going to sea, the key of my cabin and direction for the putting up of my things. After that I went to walk, and meeting Mrs. Lane of Westminster Hall, I took her to my Lord's, and did give her a bottle of wine in the garden, where Mr. Fairbrother of Cambridge did come and found us, and drank with us. After that I took her to my house, where I was exceeding free in dallying with her, and she not unfree to take it. At night home, and called at my father's, where I found Mr. Fairbrother, but I did not stay but went homewards, and called in at Mr. Rawlinson's, whither my uncle White was coming, and did come, but was exceeding angry, he being a little fuddled, and I think it was that I should see him in that case, as I never saw him in my life, which I was somewhat troubled at. Home and to bed. 13th. A sitting day at our office. After dinner to Whitehall, to the Privy Seal, whither my father came to me, and stayed talking with me a great while, telling me that he had propounded Mr. John Pickering for Sir Thomas Honeywood's daughter, which I think he do not deserve for his own merit. I know not what he may do for his estate. My father and Creed and I to the old Rhenish wine-house, and talked and drank till night. Then my father home, and I to my Lord's, where he told me that he would suddenly go into the country, and so did commend the business of his sea commission to me in his absence. After that home by coach, and took my £100 that I had formerly left at Mr. Rawlinson's home with me, which is the first that ever I was master of at once. To prayers and to bed. 14th. To the Privy Seal, and thence to my Lord's, where Mr. Pym the tailor and I agreed upon making me a velvet coat. From thence to the Privy Seal again, where Sir Samuel Morland came in with a baronet's grant to pass, which the King had given him to make money of. Here he stayed with me a great while, and told me the whole manner of his serving the King in the time of the Protector, and how Thurloe's bad usage made him to do it. How he discovered Sir R. Willis, and how he hath sunk his fortune for the King, and that now the King hath given him a pension of £500 per annum out of the post office for life, and the benefit of 2 baronets. All which do make me begin to think that he is not so much a fool as I took him to be. Home by water to the Tower, where my father, Mr. Fairbrother, and cook dined with me. After dinner, in comes young Captain Cuttance of the Speedwell, who is sent up for the gratuity given the seamen that brought the King over. He brought me a firkin of butter for my wife, which is very welcome. My father after dinner takes leave, after I had given him 40s, for the last half year for my brother John at Cambridge. I did also make even with Mr. Fairbrother for my degree of Master of Arts, which cost me about £9 16s. To Whitehall, and my wife with me by water, where at the Privy Seal and elsewhere all the afternoon. At night home with her by water, where I made good sport with having the girl and the boy to comb my head, before I went to bed in the kitchen. 15th. To the office, and after dinner by water to Whitehall, where I found the King gone this morning by 5 of the clock to see a Dutch pleasure boat below bridge, where he dines, and my Lord with him. The King do tire all his people that are about him with early rising since he came. To the office all the afternoon I stayed there, and in the evening went to Westminster Hall, where I stayed at Mrs. Mitchell's, and with her and her husband sent for some drink, and drank with them. By the same token she and Mrs. Murford, and another old woman of the Hall, were going a gossiping to night. From thence to my Lord's. where I found him within, and he did give me direction about his business in his absence, he intending to go into the country to morrow morning. Here I lay all night in the old chamber, which I had now given up to W. Howe, with whom I did intend to lie, but he and I fell to play with one another, so that I made him to go lie with Mr. Shepley. So I lay alone all night. 16th. This morning my Lord, all things being ready, carried me by coach to Mr. Crew's, in the way talking how good he did hope my place would be to me, and in general speaking that it was not the salary of any place that did make a man rich, but the opportunity of getting money while he is in the place, where he took leave, and went into the coach, and so for Hinchinbroke. My Lady Jemima and Mr. Thomas Crew in the coach with him. Hence to Whitehall about noon, where I met with Mr. Madge, who took me along with him and Captain Cook, the famous singer, and other masters of music, to dinner at an ordinary about Charing Cross, where we dined, all paying their club. Hence to the Privy Seal, where there has been but little work these 2 days. In the evening home. 17th. To the office, and that done, home to dinner, where Mr. Unthank, my wife's tailor, dined with us, we having nothing but a dish of sheep's trotters. After dinner by water to Whitehall, where a great deal of business at the Privy Seal. At night, I and Creed and the Judge Advocate went to Mr. Pym the tailor's, who took us to the Half Moon, and there did give us great store of wine and anchovies, and would pay for them all. This night I saw Mr. Creed show many the strangest emotions to shift off his drink I ever saw in my life. By coach home and to bed. 18th. This morning I took my wife towards Westminster by water, and landed her at Whitefriars, with £5 to buy her a petticoat, and I to the Privy Seal. By and by comes my wife to tell me that my father has persuaded her to buy a most fine cloth of 26 shillings a yard, and a rich lace, that the petticoat will come to £5, at which I was somewhat troubled, but she doing it very innocently, I could not be angry. I did give her more money, and sent her away, and I and Creed and Captain Hayward, who is now unkindly put out of the Plymouth, to make way for Captain Allen to go to Constantinople, and put into his ship the Dover, which I know will trouble my Lord, went and dined at the Leg in King Street, where Captain Ferrers, my Lord's cornet, comes to us, who after dinner took me and Creed to the Cockpit play, the first that I have had time to see since my coming from sea, the Loyal Subject, where one Kynaston, a boy, acted the Duke's sister, but made the loveliest lady that ever I saw in my life, only her voice not very good. After the play done, we 3 went to drink, and by Captain Ferrers' means, Kynaston, and another that acted Archas the General, came and drank with us. Hence home by coach, and after being trimmed, leaving my wife to look after her little bitch, which was just now a whelping, I to bed. 19th, Lord's Day. In the morning my wife tells me that the bitch has whelped 4 young ones, and is very well after it, my wife having had a great fear that she would die thereof, the dog that got them being very big. This morning Sir W. Batten, Pen, and myself went to church to the churchwardens to demand a pew, which at present could not be given us, but we are resolved to have one built. So we stayed and heard Mr. Mills, a very good minister. Home to dinner, where my wife had on her new petticoat that she bought yesterday, which indeed is a very fine cloth and a fine lace, but that being of a light colour, and the lace all silver, it makes no great show. Mr. Creed and my brother Tom dined with me. After dinner my wife went and fetched the little puppies to us, which are very pretty ones. After they were gone, I went up to put my papers in order, and finding my wife's clothes lie carelessly laid up, I was angry with her, which I was troubled for. After that my wife and I went and walked in the garden, and so home to bed. 20th, Office Day. As Sir W. Pen and I were walking in the garden, a messenger came to me from the Duke of York to fetch me to the Lord Chancellor. So Mrs. Turner with her daughter Thea being come to my house to speak with me about a friend of hers to send to sea, I went with her in her coach as far as Worcester House, but my Lord Chancellor being gone to the House of Lords, I went thither, and, there being a law case before them this day, got in, and there stayed all the morning, seeing their manner of sitting on woolpacks, etc., which I never did before. After the House was up, I spoke to my Lord, and had order from him to come to him at night. This morning Mr. Creed did give me the papers that concern my Lord's sea commission, which he left in my hands, and went to sea this day, to look after the gratuity money. This afternoon at the Privy Seal, where reckoning with Mr. Moore, he had got £100 for me together, which I was glad of, guessing that the profits of this month would come to £100. In the evening I went all alone to drink at Mr. Harper's, where I found Mrs. Crisp's daughter, with whom and her friends I stayed and drank, and so with W. Hewer by coach to Worcester House, where I light, sending him home with the £100 that I received to day. Here I stayed, and saw my Lord Chancellor come into his great hall, where wonderful how much company there was to expect him at a seal. Before he would begin any business, he took my papers of the state of the debts of the fleet, and there viewed them before all the people, and did give me his advice privately how to order things, to get as much money as we can of the Parliament. That being done, I went home, where I found all my things come home from sea, sent by desire by Mr. Donne, of which I was glad, though many of my things are quite spoilt with mould, by reason of lying so long a shipboard, and my cabin being not tight. I spent much time to dispose of them to-night, and so to bed. 21st. This morning I went to Whitehall with Sir W. Pen by water, who in our passage told me how he was bred up under Sir W. Batten. We went to Mr. Coventry's chamber, and consulted of drawing my papers of debts of the Navy against the afternoon for the Committee. So to the Admiralty, where W. Hewer and I did them, and after that he went to his aunt's Blackburn, who has a kinswoman dead at her house to-day, and was to be buried to-night, by which means he stayed very late out. I to Westminster Hall, where I met Mr. Crew, and dined with him, where there dined one Mr. Hickman, an Oxford man, who spoke very much against the height of the now old clergy, for putting out many of the religious fellows of colleges, and inveighing against them for their being drunk, which, if true, I am sorry to hear. After that towards Westminster, where I called on Mr. Pym, and there found my velvet coat, the first that ever I had, done, and a velvet mantle, which I took to the Privy Seal office, and there locked them up, and went to the Queen's Court, and there, after much waiting, spoke with Colonel Birch, who read my papers, and desired some addition. Which done, I returned to the Privy Seal, where little to do, and with Mr. Moore towards London, and in our way meeting Monsieur Eschar, Mr. Montague's man, about the Savoy, he took us to the Brazen Nose Tavern, and there drank, and so parted, and I home by coach, and there, it being post-night, I wrote to my Lord to give him notice that all things are well, that General Monk is made Lieutenant of Ireland, which my Lord Roberts, made Deputy, do not like of, to be Deputy to any man but the King himself. After that to bed. 22nd. Office, which done, Sir W. Pen took me into the garden, and there told me how Mr. Turner do intend to petition the Duke for an allowance extra as one of the clerks of the Navy, which he desired me to join with him in the furthering of, which I promised to do, so that it did not reflect upon me, or to my damage, to have any other added, as if I was not able to perform my place, which he did wholly disown to be any of his intention, but far from it. I took Mr. Hayter home with me to dinner, with whom I did advise, who did give me the same counsel. After dinner he and I to the office, about doing something more as to the debts of the Navy than I had done yesterday. And so to Whitehall to the Privy Seal, and having done there, with my father, who came to see me, to Westminster Hall and the Parliament House, to look for Colonel Birch, but found him not. In the House, after the Committee was up, I met with Mr. G. Montague, and joyed him in his entrance, this being his 3rd day, for Dover. Here he made me sit all alone in the House, none but he and I, half an hour discoursing how things stand, and in short he told me how there was like to be many factions at Court between Marquis Ormond, General Monk, and the Lord Roberts, about the business of Ireland, as there is already between the two Houses about the Act of Indemnity, and in the House of Commons between the Episcopalian and Presbyterian men. Hence to my father's, walking with Mr. Herring, the minister of St. Bride's, and took them to the Sun Tavern, where I found George, my old drawer, come again. From thence by water, landed them at Blackfriars, and so home and to bed. 23rd. By water to Doctors' Commons to Dr. Walker, to give him my Lord's papers to view over, concerning his being empowered to be Vice-Admiral under the Duke of York. There meeting with Mr. Pinkney, he and I to a morning draught, and thence by water to Whitehall, to the Parliament House, where I spoke with Colonel Birch, and so to the Admiralty Chamber, where we and Mr. Coventry had a meeting about several businesses. Amongst others, it was moved that Phineas Pett, kinsman to the Commissioner of Chatham, should be suspended his employment till he had answered some articles put in against him, as that he should formally say that the King was a bastard and his mother a whore. Hence to Westminster Hall, where I met with my father Bowyer and Mr. Spicer, and them I took to the Leg in King Street, and did give them a dish or two of meat, and so away to the Privy Seal, where, the King being out of town, we have had nothing to do these 2 days. To Westminster Hall, where I met with W. Simons, T. Doling, and Mr. Booth, and with them to the Dog, where we eat a musk melon, the first that I have eat this year, and were very merry with W. Simons, calling him Mr. Dean, because of the Dean's lands that his uncle had left him, which are like to be lost all. Hence home by water, and very late at night writing letters to my Lord to Hinchinbroke, and also to the Vice-Admiral in the Downs, and so to bed. 24th. Office, and thence with Sir William Batten and Sir William Penn to the parish church, to find out a place where to build a seat or a gallery to sit in, and did find one which is to be done speedily. Hence with them to dinner at a tavern in Thames Street, where they were invited to a roasted haunch of venison, and other very good victuals and company. Hence to Whitehall to the Privy Seal, but nothing to do. At night by land to my father's, where I found my mother not very well. I did give her a pint of sack. My father came in, and Dr. T. Pepys, who talked with me in French about looking out for a place for him. But I found him a weak man, and speaks the worst French that ever I heard of one that had been so long beyond sea. Hence into Pant's churchyard, and bought Barclay's Argonis in Latin, and so home and to bed. I found at home that Captain Burr had sent me 4 dozen bottles of wine to-day. The King came back to Whitehall to-night. 25th. This morning Mr. Turner and I by coach from our office to Whitehall. In our way, I calling on Dr. Walker for the papers I did give him the other day, which he had perused and found that the Duke's counsel had abated something of the former draught which Dr. Walker drew for my Lord to Sir G. Carteret, where we there made up an estimate of the debts of the Navy for the council. At noon I took Mr. Turner and Mr. Moore to the Leg in King Street, and did give them a dinner, and after to the Sun Tavern, and did give Mr. Turner a glass of wine, there coming to us Mr. Fowler the apothecary, the judge's son, with a book of lute lessons which his father had left there for me, such as he formerly did use to play when a young man, and had the use of his hand. To the Privy Seal, and found some business now again to do there. To Westminster Hall for a new half shirt of Mrs. Lane, and so home by water. Wrote letters by the post to my Lord and to sea. This night W. Hewer brought me home from Mr. Pym's my velvet coat and cap, the first that ever I had. So to bed. 26th, Lord's day. With Sir W. Pen to the parish church, where we are placed in the highest pew of all, where a stranger preached a dry and tedious long sermon. Dined at home. To church again in the afternoon with my wife, in the garden and on the leads at night, and so to supper and to bed. 27th. This morning comes one with a vessel of North Down ale from Mr. Pierce, the purser, to me, and after him another with a brave turkey carpet and a jar of olives from Captain Cutton's, and a pair of fine turtle doves from John Burr to my wife. These things came up to-day in our smack, and my boy Ely came along with them, and came after office was done to see me. I did give him 1/2 crown, because I saw that he was ready to cry, to see that he could not be entertained by me here. In the afternoon to the Privy Seal, where good store of work now toward the end of the month. From thence with Mr. Mount, Llewellyn, and others to the Bull Head till late, and so home, where about 2 o'clock Major Hart came to me, whom I did receive with wine and anchovies, which made me so dry that I was ill with them all night, and was fain to have the girl rise and fetch me some drink. 28th. At home, looking over my papers and books and house, as to the fitting of it to my mind till 2 in the afternoon. Some time I spent this morning beginning to teach my wife some scale in music, and found her apt beyond imagination. To the Privy Seal, where great store of work to-day. Colonel Scroop is this day accepted out of the Act of Indemnity, which has been now long in coming out, but it is expected to-morrow. I carried home £80 from the Privy Seal by coach, and at night spent a little more time with my wife about her music with great content. This day I heard my poor mother had then 2 days been very ill, and I fear she will not last long. To bed, a little trouble that I fear my boy Will is a thief, and has stole some money of mine, particularly a letter that Mr. Jenkins did leave the last week with me, with 1/2 crown in it to send to his son. 29th, Office day. Before I went to the office, my wife and I examined my boy Will about his stealing of things, but he denied all with the greatest subtlety and confidence in the world. To the office, and after office then to the church, where we took another view of the place where we had resolved to build a gallery, and have set men about doing it. Home to dinner, and there I found my wife had discovered my boy Will's theft, and a great deal more than we imagined, at which I was vexed, and intend to put him away. To my office at the Privy Seal in the afternoon, and from thence at night to the Bull Head, with Mount, Llewellyn, and others, and hence to my father's, and he being at my uncle Fenner's, I went thither to him, and there sent for my boy's father, and talked with him about his son, and had his promise that if I will send home his boy, he will take him, notwithstanding his indenture. Home at night, and find that my wife had found out more of the boy's stealing 6 shillings out of W. Hewer's closet, and hid it in the house of office, at which my heart was troubled. To bed, and caused the boy's clothes to be brought up to my chamber. But after we were all abed, the wench, which lies in our chamber, called us to listen of a sudden, which put my wife into such a fright that she shook every joint of her, and a long time that I could not get her out of it. The noise was the boy, we did believe, got in a desperate mood out of his bed to do himself or William some mischief. But the wench went down and got a candle lighted, and finding the boy in bed, and locking the doors fast, with the candle burning all night, we slept well, but with a great deal of fear. 30th. We found all well in the morning below stairs, but the boy in a sad plight of seeming sorrow. But he is the most cunning rogue that ever I met with of his age. To Whitehall, where I met with the Act of Indemnity, so long talked of and hoped for, with the Act of Rate for poll money, and for judicial proceedings. At Westminster Hall I met with Mr. Paget the lawyer, and dined with him at Heaven. This afternoon my wife went to Mr. Pierce's wife's child's christening, and was urged to be godmother, but I advised her beforehand not to do it, so she did not, but as proxy for my Lady Jemimah. This the first day that ever I saw my wife wear black patches since we were married. My Lord came to town to-day, but coming not home till very late, I staid till 10 at night, and so home on foot. Mr. Shepley and Mr. Child this night at the tavern. 31st. Early to wait upon my Lord at Whitehall, and with him to the Duke's chamber. So to my office in Seething Lane. Dined at home, and after dinner to my Lord again, who told me that he is ordered to go suddenly to sea, and did give me some orders to be drawing up against his going. This afternoon I agreed to let my house quite out of my hands to Mr. Dalton, one of the wine sellers to the King, with whom I had drunk in the old wine cellar 2 or 3 times, for £41. At night made even at Privy Seal for this month against tomorrow to give up possession, but we know not to whom, though we most favour Mr. Bickerstaffe, with whom and Mr. Matthews we drank late after office was done at the Sun, discoursing what to do about it tomorrow against Baron, and so home and to bed. Blessed be God, all things continue well with and for me. I pray God fit me for a change of my fortune. End of August. September, 1660. September 1st. This morning I took care to get a vessel to carry my Lord's things to the Downs on Monday next, and so to Whitehall to my Lord, where he and I did look over the commission drawn for him by the Duke's council, which I do not find my Lord displeased with, though short of what Dr. Walker did formerly draw for him. Thence to the Privy Seal to see how things went there, and I find that Mr. Baron had by a severe warrant from the King got possession of the office from his brother Bickerstaffe, which is very strange, and much to our admiration, it being against all open justice. Mr. Moore and I, and several others, being invited to-day by Mr. Goodman, a friend of his, we dined at the Bullhead upon the best venison pasty that ever I eat of in my life, and with one dish more, it was the best dinner I ever was at. Here arose in discourse at table a dispute between Mr. Moore and Dr. Clarke, the former affirming that it was essential to a tragedy to have the argument of it true, which the Doctor denied, and left it to me to be judge, and the cause to be determined next Tuesday morning at the same place, upon the eating of the remains of the pasty, and the loser to spend 10 shillings. All this afternoon sending express to the Fleet, to order things against my Lord's coming, and taking direction of my Lord about some rich furniture to take along with him for the Princess. And talking of this, I hear by Mr. Townsend that there is the greatest preparation against the Prince de Ligne's a coming over from the King of Spain, that ever was in England for the ambassador. Late home, and what with business and my boy's roguery, my mind being unquiet, I went to bed. 2nd, Sunday. To Westminster, my Lord being gone before my coming to chapel. I and Mr. Shepley told out my money, and made even for my Privy Seal fees and gratuity money, etc., to this day between my Lord and me. After that to chapel, where Dr. Fern a good honest sermon upon "The Lord is my shield." After sermon a dull anthem, and so to my Lord's, he dining abroad, and dined with Mr. Shepley. So to St. Margaret's, and heard a good sermon upon the text "Teach us the old way," or something like it, wherein he ran over all the new tenets in policy and religion, which have brought us into all our late divisions. From church to Mrs. Crisp's, having sent Win Hewer home to tell my wife that I could not come home to-night because of my Lord's going out early to-morrow morning, where I sat late, and did give them a great deal of wine, it being a farewell cup to Lord Crisp. I drank till the daughter began to be very loving to me and kind, and I fear is not so good as she should be. To my Lord's, and to bed with Mr. Shepley. 3rd. Up and to Mr. the goldsmith near the New Exchange, where I bought my wedding ring, and there with much ado got him to put a gold ring to the jewel which the King of Sweden did give my Lord, out of which my Lord had now taken the King's picture, and intends to make a George of it. This morning at my Lord's I had an opportunity to speak with Sir George Downing, who has promised me to give me up my bond, and to pay me for my last quarter while I was at sea, that so I may pay Mr. Moore and Hawley. About noon my Lord, having taken leave of the King in the Shield Gallery, where I saw with what kindness the king did hug my lord at his parting, I went over with him and saw him in his coach at Lambeth, and there took leave of him, he going to the Downs, which put me in mind of his first voyage that ever he made, which he did begin like this from Lambeth. In the afternoon with Mr. Moore to my house to cast up our Privy Seal accounts, where I found that my lord's comes to 400 and odd pounds, and mine to 132 pounds, out of which I do give him as good as 25 pounds for his pains, with which I doubt he is not satisfied, but my heart is full glad. Thence with him to Mr. Crew's, and did fetch as much money as did make even our accounts, between him and me. Home, and there found Mr. Cooke come back from my lord for me, to get him some things bought for him to be brought after them, a toilet cap and comb case of silk, to make use of in Holland, for he goes to the Hague, which I can do to-morrow morning. This day my father and my uncle Fenner, and both his sons, have been at my house to see it, and my wife did treat them nobly with wine and anchovies. By reason of my lord's going to-day, I could not get the office to meet to-day. 4th. I did many things this morning at home before I went out, as looking over the joiners, who are flooring my dining-room, and doing business with Sir Williams both at the office, and so to Whitehall, and so to the Bullhead, where we had the remains of our pasty, where I did give my verdict against Mr. Moore upon last Saturday's wager, where Dr. Fuller coming in do confirm me in my verdict. From thence to my lord's, and dispatched Mr. Cooke away with the things to my lord. From thence to Axe Yard to my house, where standing at the door Mrs. Diana comes by, whom I took into my house upstairs, and there did dally with her a great while, and found that, in Latin, nulla puella negat. So home by water, and there sat up late, setting my papers in order, and my money also, and teaching my wife her music lesson, in which I take great pleasure. So to bed. 5th. To the office. From thence by coach, upon the desire of the principal officers, to a Master of Chancery to give Mr. Stowell his oath, whereby he do answer that he did hear Phineas Pett say very high words against the King a great while ago. Coming back, our coach broke, and so Stowell and I to Mr. Rawlinson's, and after a glass of wine parted, and I to the office, home to dinner, where, having put away my boy in the morning, his father brought him again, but I did so clear up my boy's roguery to his father, that he could not speak against my putting him away, and so I did give him 10 shillings for the boy's clothes that I made him, and so parted, and tore his indenture. All the afternoon with the principal officers at Sir W. Batten's about Pett's business, where I first saw Colonel Slingsby, who has now his appointment for Comptroller, but did bring it to no issue. This day I saw our Dedimus to be sworn in the peace by, which will be shortly. In the evening, my wife being a little impatient, I went along with her to buy her a necklace of pearl, which will cost 4 pounds 10 shillings, which I am willing to comply with her in for her encouragement, and because I have lately got money, having now above 200 pounds in cash beforehand in the world. Home, and having in our way bought a rabbit and 2 little lobsters, my wife and I did sup late, and so to bed. Great news nowadays of the Duke d'Anjou's desire to marry the Princess Henrietta. Hugh Peters is said to be taken, and the Duke of Gloucester is ill, and it is said it will prove the smallpox. 6th. To Whitehall by water, with Sir W. Batten, and in our passage told me how Commissioner Pett did pay himself for the entertainment that he did give the King at Chatham at his coming in, and 20 shillings a day all the time he was in Holland, which I wonder at, and so I see there is a great deal of envy between the two. At Whitehall I met with Commissioner Pett, who told me how Mr. Coventry and Fairbank his solicitor are falling out, one complaining of the other for taking too great fees, which is too true. I find that Commissioner Pett is under great discontent, and is loath to give too much money for his place, and so did greatly desire me to go along with him in what we shall agree to give Mr. Coventry, which I have promised him, but am unwilling to mix my fortune with him that is going down the wind. We all met this morning and afterwards at the Admiralty, where our business is to ask provision of victuals ready for the ships in the Downs, which we did, Mr. Gordon promising to go himself thither and see it done. Dined, Will and I, at my Lord's upon a joint of meat that I sent Mrs. Sarah for. Afterwards to my office, and sent all my books to my Lord's, in order to send them to my house that I now dwell in. Home and to bed. 7th. Not office day, and in the afternoon at home all the day, it being the first that I have been at home all day since I came hither, putting my papers, books, and other things in order, and writing of letters. This day my Lord set sail from the Downs for Holland. 8th. All day also at home. At night sent for by Sir W. Pen, with whom I sat late drinking a glass of wine and discoursing, and I find him to be a very sociable man, and an able man, and very cunning. 9th. Sunday. In the morning with Sir W. Pen to church, and a very good sermon of Mr. Mills. Home to dinner, and Sir W. Pen with me, to such as I had, and it was very handsome, it being the first time that he ever saw my wife or house since we came hither. Afternoon to church with my wife, and after that home, and there walked with Major Hart, who came to see me, in the garden, who tells me that we are all like to be speedily disbanded, and then I lose the benefit of a muster. After supper to bed. 10th. Office day. News of the Duke's intention to go to-morrow to the Fleet for a day or two to meet his sister. Colonel Slingsby and I to Whitehall, thinking to proffer our service to the Duke to wait upon him, but meeting with Sir G. Carteret, he sent us in all haste back again, to hire 2 catches for the present use of the Duke. So we returned and landed at the Bear at the bridge foot, where we saw Southwark Fair, I having not at all seen Bartholomew Fair, and so to the Tower Wharf, where we did hire 2 catches. So to the office, and found Sir W. Batten at dinner with some friends upon a good chine of beef, on which I ate heartily, I being very hungry. Home, where Mr. Snow, whom afterwards we called one another cousin, came to me to see me, and with him and one Shelston, a simple fellow, that looks after an employment, that was with me just upon my going to sea last. To a tavern, where till late with them. So home, having drunk too much, and so to bed. 11th. At Sir W. Batten's with Sir W. Pen, we drank our morning draught, and from thence for an hour in the office and dispatched a little business. Dined at Sir W. Batten's, and by this time I see that we are all like to have a very good correspondence and neighbourhood, but chargeable. All the afternoon at home looking over my carpenters. At night I called Tom Hayter out of the office to my house to sit and talk with me. After he was gone I caused the girl to wash the wainscot of our parlour, which she did very well, which caused my wife and I good sport. Up to my chamber to read a little, and wrote my diary for 3 or 4 days past. The Duke of York did go to-day by break of day to the Downs. The Duke of Gloucester ill. The House of Parliament was to adjourn to-day. I know not yet whether it be done or no. To bed. 12th. Office day. This noon I expected to have had my cousin Snow and my father come to dine with me, but it being very rainy they did not come. My brother Tom came to my house with a letter from my brother John, wherein he desires some books: Bartholomew, Anatomy; Rosin, Roman Antiquities; and Gazan, Astronomy, the last of which I did give him, and an angel, against my father buying of the others. At home all the afternoon looking after my workmen, whose laziness do much trouble me. This day the Parliament adjourned. 13th. Old East comes to me in the morning with letters, and I did give him a bottle of Northdown ale, which made the poor man almost drunk. In the afternoon my wife went to the burial of a child of my cousin Scott's, and it is observable that within this month my aunt White was brought to bed of 2 girls, my cousin Stradwick of a girl and a boy, and my cousin Scott of a boy, and all died. In the afternoon to Westminster, where Mr. Dalton was ready with his money to pay me for my house, but our writings not being drawn it could not be done to-day. I met with Mr. Hawley, who was removing his things from Mr. Bowyer's, where he has lodged a great while. And I took him and W. Bowyer to the Swan, and drank, and Mr. Hawley did give me a little black rattoon, painted and gilt. Home by water. This day the Duke of Gloucester died of the smallpox, by the great negligence of the doctors. 14th. Office day. I got 42 pounds 15 shillings appointed me by bill for my employment of secretary to the 4th of this month, it being the last money I shall receive upon that score. My wife went this afternoon to see my mother, who I hear is very ill, at which my heart is very sad. In the afternoon Llewellyn comes to my house, and takes me out to the Mitre in Wood Street, where Mr. Samford, W. Simons and his wife, and Mr. Scobell, Mr. Mount, and Chetwin, where they were very merry, Llewellyn being drunk, and I being to defend the ladies from his kissing them. I kissed them myself very often, with a great deal of mirth. Parted very late, they by coach to Westminster, and I on foot. 15th. Met very early at our office this morning to pick out the 25 ships which are to be first paid off. After that to Westminster, and dined with Mr. Dalton at his office, where we had one great court dish, but our papers not being done, we could not make an end of our business till Monday next. Mr. Dalton and I over the water to our landlord Banley, with whom we agree as to Dalton becoming a tenant. Back to Westminster, where I met with Dr. Castles, who chid me for some errors in our Privy Seal business, among the rest for letting the fees of the 6 judges pass unpaid, which I know not what to say to till I speak to Mr. Moore. I was much troubled for fear of being forced to pay the money myself. Called at my father's going home, and bespoke mourning for myself, for the death of the Duke of Gloucester. I found my mother pretty well. So home and to bed. 16th. Sunday. To Dr. Hardy's church, and sat with Mr. Rawlinson, and heard a good sermon upon the occasion of the Duke's death. His text was, "And is there any evil in the city, and the Lord hath not done it?" Home to dinner, having some sport with Wynne, who never had been at common prayer before. After dinner I alone to Westminster, where I spent my time walking up and down in Westminster Abbey till sermon time, with Ben Palmer and Fetters the watchmaker, who told me that my Lord of Oxford is also dead of the smallpox, in whom his family dies, after 600 years having that honour in their family and name. From thence to the Park, where I saw how far they had proceeded in the Pall Mall, and in making a river through the Park, which I had never seen before since it was begun. Thence to Whitehall Garden, where I saw the King in purple mourning for his brother. So home, and in my way met with Dinah, who spoke to me and told me she had a desire to speak too about some business when I came to Westminster again, which she spoke in such a manner that I was afraid she might tell me something that I would not hear of our last meeting at my house at Westminster. Home late, being very dark. A gentleman in the Poultry had a great and dirty fall over a water pipe that lay along the channel. 17th. Office very early about casting up the debts of those 25 ships which are to be paid off, which we are to present to the Committee of Parliament. I did give my wife £15 this morning to go to buy mourning things for her and me, which she did. Dined at home, and Mr. Moore with me, and afterwards to Whitehall, to Mr. Dalton, and drank in the cellar, where Mr. Vanley, according to appointment, was. Thenceforth to see the Prince de Ligne, Spanish ambassador, come in to his audience, which was done in very great state. That being done, Dalton, Vanley, Scrivener, and some friends of theirs, and I to the axe, and signed and sealed our writings, and hence to the wine cellar again, where I received £41 for my interest in my house, out of which I paid my landlord to Michaelmas next. And so all is even between him and me, and I freed of my poor little house. Home by link with my money under my arm. So to bed, after I had looked over the things my wife had bought to-day, with which being not very well pleased, they costing too much, I went to bed in a discontent. Nothing yet from sea, where my lord and the princess are. 18th. At home all the morning, looking over my workmen in my house. After dinner, Sir W. Batten, Penn, and myself by coach to Westminster Hall, where we met Mr. Waite the lawyer to the Treasurer, and so we went up to the Committee of Parliament, which are to consider of the debts of the Army and Navy, and did give in our account of the 25 ships. Colonel Birch was very impertinent and troublesome, but at last we did agree to fit the accounts of our ships more perfectly for their view within a few days, that they might see what a trouble it is to do what they desire. From thence, Sir Williams both going by water home, I took Mr. Waite to the Rhenish wine-house, and drank with him, and so parted. Thence to Mr. Crew's, and spoke with Mr. Moore about the business of paying off Baron our share of the dividend. So on foot home, by the way buying a hat band and other things for my mourning to-morrow. So home and to bed. This day I heard that the Duke of York, upon the news of the death of his brother yesterday, came hither by post last night. 19th, Office day. I put on my mourning and went to the office. At noon, thinking to have found my wife in hers, I found that the tailor had failed her, at which I was vexed, because of an invitation that we have to a dinner this day. But after having waited till past 1 o'clock, I went, and left her to put on some other clothes, and come after me to the Mitre Tavern in Wood Street, a house of the greatest note in London, where I met W. Simons and D. Scobell and their wives, Mr. Samford, Llewellyn, Chetwin, one Mr. Vivian, and Mr. White, formerly chaplain to the Lady Protectress, and still so, and one they say that is likely to get my Lady Frances for his wife. Here we were very merry, and had a very good dinner, my wife coming after me hither to us. Among other pleasures, some of us fell to handicap, a sport that I never knew before, which was very good. We stayed till it was very late. It rained sadly, but we made shift to get coaches. So home and to bed. 20th. At home and at the office, and in the garden walking with both Sir Williams all the morning. After dinner to Whitehall, to Mr. Dalton, and with him to my house, and took away all my papers that were left in my closet, and so I have now nothing more in the house, or to do with it. We called to speak with my landlord Beale, but he was not within, but spoke with the old woman, who takes it very ill that I did not let her have it, but I did give her an answer. From thence to Sir G. Downing, and stayed late there, he having sent for me to come to him, which was to tell me how my Lord Sandwich had disappointed him of a ship to bring over his child and goods, and made great complaint thereof. But I got him to write a letter to Lawson, which it may be may do the business for him, I writing another also about it. While he was writing, and his lady and I had a great deal of discourse in praise of Holland. By water to the bridge, and so to Major Hart's lodgings in Cannon Street, who used me very kindly with wine and good discourse, particularly upon the ill method which Colonel Birch and the Committee use in defending of the Army and the Navy, promising the Parliament to save them a great deal of money, when we judge that it will cost the King more than if they had nothing to do with it, by reason of their delays and scrupulous inquiries into the account of both. So home and to bed. 21st, Office day. There all the morning and afternoon till 4 o'clock. Hence to Whitehall, thinking to have put up my books at my Lord's, but am disappointed from want of a chest which I had at Mr. Bowyer's. Back by water about 8 o'clock, and upon the water saw the corpse of the Duke of Gloucester brought down Somerset House stairs, to go by water to Westminster to be buried to-night. I landed at the Old Swan, and went to the Hoop Tavern, and by a former agreement sent for Mr. Chaplin, who with Nicholas Osborne and one Daniel came to us, and we drank off 2 or 3 quarts of wine, which was very good, the drawing of our wine causing a great quarrel in the house between the 2 drawers, which should draw us the best, which caused a great deal of noise and falling out till the master parted them, and came up to us, and did give us a large account of the liberty that he gives his servants, all alike, to draw what wine they will to please his customers. And we did eat above 200 walnuts. About 2 o'clock we broke up, and so home, and in my way I called in with them at Mr. Chaplin's, where Nicholas Osborne did give me a barrel of samphire, and showed me the keys of Mardyke Fort, which he that was commander of the fort sent him as a token when the fort was demolished, which I was mightily pleased to see, and will get them off him if I can. Home, where I found my boy, my maid's brother, come out of the country to-day, but was gone to bed, and so I could not see him to-night. To bed. 22nd. This morning I called up my boy, and found him a pretty well-looked boy, and one that I think will please me. I went this morning by land to Westminster, along with Llewellyn, who came to my house this morning to get me to go with him to Captain Allen, to speak with him for his brother to go with him to Constantinople, but could not find him. We walked on to Fleet Street, where at Mr. Standing's in Salisbury Court we drank our morning draught and had a pickled herring. Among other discourse here, he told me how the pretty woman that I always loved at the beginning of Cheapside, that sells child's coats, was served by the Lady Bennet, a famous strumpet, who by counterfeiting to fall into a swoon upon the sight of her in her shop, became acquainted with her, and at last got her ends of her to lie with a gentleman that had hired her to procure this poor soul for him. To Westminster to my Lord's, and there in the House of Office vomited up all my breakfast, my stomach being ill all this day, by reason of the last night's debauch. Here I sent to Mr. Bowyer's for my chest, and put up my books, and sent them home. I stayed here all day in my Lord's chamber, and upon the leads, gazing upon Diana, who looked out of a window upon me. At last I went out to Mr. Harper's, and she standing over the way at the gate, I went over to her, and appointed to meet to-morrow in the afternoon at my Lord's. Here I bought a hanging jack. From thence by coach home by the way at the New Exchange. I bought a pair of short black stockings to wear over a pair of silk ones for mourning, and here I met with Thea Turner and Joyce, buying of things to go into mourning too for the Duke, which is now the mode of all the ladies in town. Where I wrote some letters by the post to Hinchinbroke, to let them know that this day Mr. Edward Pickering is come from my Lord, and says that he left him well in Holland, and that he will be here within 3 or 4 days. To-day not well of my last night's drinking yet. I had the boy up to-night for his sister to teach him to put me to bed, and I heard him read, which he did pretty well. 23rd, Lord's Day. My wife got up to put on her mourning to-day, and to go to church this morning. I up and set down my journal for these 5 days past. This morning came one from my father's with a black cloth coat, made of my short cloak, to walk up and down in. To church my wife and I with Sir W. Batten, where we heard of Mr. Mills a very good sermon upon these words, so run that you may obtain. After dinner all alone to Westminster. At Whitehall I met with Mr. Pierce and his wife, she newly come forth after childbirth, both in mourning for the Duke of Gloucester. She went with Mr. Child to Whitehall Chapel, and Mr. Pierce with me to the Abbey, where I expected to hear Mr. Baxter or Mr. Rowe preach their farewell sermon, and in Mr. Simon's pew I sat and heard Mr. Rowe. Before sermon I laughed at the reader, who in his prayer desires of God that he would imprint his word on the thumbs of our right hands, and on the right great toes of our right feet. In the midst of the sermon some plaster fell from the top of the Abbey, that made me and all the rest in our pew afeard, and I wished myself out. After sermon with Mr. Pierce to Whitehall, and from thence to my Lord. But Diana did not come according to our agreement. So calling at my father's, where my wife had been this afternoon, but was gone home, I went home. This afternoon, the King having news of the Princess being come to Margate, he and the Duke of York went down thither in barges to her. 24th, Office Day. From thence to dinner by coach with my wife to my cousin Scott's, and the company not being come, I went over the way to the barber's. So thither again to dinner, where was my uncle Fenner and my aunt, my father and mother, and others. Among the rest my cousin Richard Pepys, their elder brother, whom I had not seen these 14 years, ever since he came from New England. It was strange for us to go a-gossiping to her, she having newly buried her child, that she was brought to bed of. I rose from table and went to the Temple Church, where I had appointed Sir W. Batten to meet him, and there at Sir Heneage Finch, Solicitor General's chambers, before him and Sir W. Wilde, Recorder of London, whom we sent for from his chamber, we were sworn Justices of Peace for Middlesex, Essex, Kent, and Southampton, with which honour I did find myself mightily pleased, though I am wholly ignorant in the duty of a Justice of Peace. From thence with Sir William to Whitehall by water, old Mrs. Smith with us, intending to speak with Secretary Nicholas about the augmentation of our salaries, but being forth we went to the 3 Tuns Tavern, where we drank a while, and then came in Colonel Slingsby and other gentlemen and sat with us. From thence to my Lord's to inquire whether they have had anything from my Lord or no. Knocking at the door, there passed me Monsieur l'Impertinent, for whom I took a coach and went with him to a dancing meeting in Broad Street, at the house that was formerly the Glass House, Luke Channel, master of the school, where I saw good dancing. But it growing late, and the room very full of people, and so very hot, I went home. 25th, to the office, where Sir W. Batten, Colonel Slingsby, and I sat a while, and Sir R. Ford coming to us about some business, we talked together of the interest of this kingdom to have a peace with Spain, and a war with France and Holland. Where Sir R. Ford talked like a man of great reason and experience. And afterwards I did send for a cup of tea, a China drink, of which I never had drank before, and went away. Then came Colonel Birch and Sir R. Brown, by a former appointment, and with them from Tower Wharf in the barge belonging to our office, we went to Deptford to pay off the ship's Success, which, Sir G. Carteret and Sir W. Penn coming afterwards to us, we did, Colonel Birch being a mighty busy man, and one that is the most indefatigable and forward to make himself work of any man that ever I knew in my life. At the Globe we had a very good dinner, and after that to the Pay again, which being finished we returned by water again, and I from our office with Colonel Slingsby, By coach to Westminster, I setting him down at his lodgings by the way, to inquire for my Lord's coming thither, the King and the Princess coming up the river this afternoon, as we were at our pay. And I found him gone to Mr. Crew's, where I found him well, only had got some corns upon his foot, which was not well yet. My Lord told me how the ship that brought the Princess and him, the Treader, did knock 6 times upon the Kentish knock, which put them in great fear for the ship, but got off well. He told me also how the King had knighted Vice Admiral Lawson and Sir Richard Stainer. From him late, and by coach home, where the plasterers being at work in all the rooms in my house, my wife was fain to make a bed upon the ground for her and me, and so there we lay all night. 26th, Office day. That done, to the church, to consult about our gallery. So home to dinner, where I found Mrs. Hunt, who brought me a letter for me to get my Lord to sign for her husband, which I shall do for her. At home with the workmen all the afternoon, our house being in a most sad pickle. In the evening to the office, where I fell a reading of Speed's Geography for a while. So home, thinking to have found Will at home, but he not being come home but gone somewhere else, I was very angry, and when he came did give him a very great cheque for it, and so I went to bed. 27th. To my Lord at Mr. Crew's, and there took order about some business of his, and from thence home to my workmen all the afternoon. In the evening to my Lord's, and there did read over with him and Dr. Walker my Lord's new commission for sea, and advise thereupon how to have it drawn. So home and to bed. 28th, Office day. This morning Sir W. Batten and Colonel Slingsby went with Colonel Birch and Sir William Doyley to Chatham to pay off a ship there. So only Sir W. Pen and I left here in town. All the afternoon among my workmen till 10 or 11 at night, and did give them drink and very merry with them, it being my luck to meet with a sort of drolling workman on all occasions. To bed. 29th. All day at home to make an end of our dirty work of the plasterers, and indeed my kitchen is now so handsome that I did not repent of all the trouble that I have been put to have it done. This day or yesterday, I hear, Prince Rupert is come to court, but welcome to nobody. 30th, Lord's day. To our parish church, both forenoon and afternoon, all alone. At night went to bed without prayers, my house being everywhere foul above stairs. End of September.